Hi everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. I'm Melva Peters and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada. And tonight I thought I'd jump on and show you paper piecing. Now, you may have done this before, but it's one of my favorite techniques. And I was recently asked to do a video for a card class by another demonstrator. And it was whatever technique we wanted to use. And so I decided I was going to do paper piecing. So I know that many have done this before and I've done it in some of my classes, but I just thought I would play around again with the Delivering Cheer stamp set, which when I saw it in the catalog, I just thought that this was the obvious choice for paper piecing. It just seemed like the right thing. But I'm not doing a holiday card. I'm actually going to do kind of an all occasions card, not using any holiday designer series paper. So I see Catherine and Nancy and Lynette. Great, glad you're here. If you are joining me through YouTube, welcome. I hope you'll take the time to subscribe. If you're coming in through Facebook, please take the time to give permission to StreamYard. So you need to go out to streamyard.com/Facebook to give permission so I can actually see who's commenting if you're coming in through my Facebook group. So far I can see everybody and that's great. I'm just checking to see that I can see that I am live and I can, that's perfect. So that I can actually see if you make comments who it is. So unfortunately StreamYard only shows me Facebook user if you haven't given permission. So, all right, I'm gonna switch over to my desktop. Okay, so this is the Delivering Cheer stamp set and I just love it. It has the sentiments that are more probably intended for the holiday season, but I'm going to actually use the Sending Love but Only stamp, actually cut out part of it. So, all right. And I'm also going to use, of course, the scalloped contour dies. It's kind of my go-to dies. But here's what I'm going to use for designer series paper. So this is a piece of the cork specialty paper that is in the holiday catalog. And so I'm going to use that as a background. I just love it. I haven't tried to stamp on it, so it's going to be a little interesting when I actually try to stamp on it, but we shall see. I've got some Misty Moonlight, which is one of the colors. This is designer series paper from the Nature's Harvest product suite. So not really typical, but I kind of love the colors. And then there's a Bumblebee. I've got two in Bumblebee. Not quite sure which one I'm going to use. And then I'm also going to use the cork. So I'm going to use it as a background, but I'm also going to try and stamp on it and see how it goes for one of the pieces. All right. So I've got a piece of thick basic white cardstock. And I'm just going to bring my trimmer and score it in because I like to score this when I'm using the thick basic white or very vanilla. I tend to like to score it in half. It just makes a better fold than if you just try to fold it in half. Okay. All right, so then I will just fold that. And use my bone fold. All right, so that's my card base. This is 4 1/4 by 11. You could use 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 and cut it, score it in half. Either works. All right, now I've got a piece of the cork. Now this is on. It's got a craft paper backing on it, so it's really easy to adhere. So I'm just going to use some Stampin' Seal, and I'm going to adhere the card base down. Just love the look of cork. I think I've told this story before. So my husband and I went to Portugal a few years ago, quite a few years ago now, and everything there, because cork trees are all over the place, and they grow really quickly. So it's quite a sustainable resource. And so everything is made of cork. You can buy cork purses and cork wallets, and I don't know if you can buy cork clothes, but I think I came home with a cork purse and a cork wallet. All right, so now I'm going to stamp get some blocks out. Here we go. So I'm going to stamp, of course, the skirt, because that's the obvious choice for paper piecing. And then I'm going to stamp this. So like I said, it's not a holiday card. So I'm going to use this one that's got the flowers. And then I want the sending love sentiment. Okay. So when you're paper piecing, you want to stamp I'm using the Tuxedo Black Memento. So I'm going to stamp this on a piece of basic white first. Get this out of the way. Bring in my piercing mat so that I've got some cushion behind it. And I'm going to stamp this right in the middle because I'm going to cut this out using one of the scallop dies. But I'm also going to stamp it on the Misty Moonlight. So when you're paper piecing, you want to have an image that you're going to adhere all your pieces to, but then one you've stamped onto some designer series paper. Okay, so I've stamped that. Now I'm going to stamp the top part of the lady. And she's got a really thin waist. Probably should have gone down a little bit. I wonder if I can do this again. All right. Didn't think of that when I stamped it. Oops. Stamp that on. And now we'll see if we can not make her quite so thin. Push this up a little bit. There we go. Kind of a funny piece. Okay, well, we're going to put something over top of this anyway. So now I've got that stamped. Now I want to stamp this piece again. And I'm going to stamp it on this piece of Bumblebee. And I'm really only worried about the arms because I'm going to cut out this. And then I'm going to stamp it again on the cork. Now, I haven't tried to stamp on this. I'm hoping this will work. And what I'm going to cut out, oh, good, works well. What I'm going to cut out of the cork is the wrap on the flowers. Okay, so I think I've got everything I need. So let's do the big pieces first. All right, so you just take your paper snips and cut around your pieces. And probably what I should have done is cut some of these out, stamped and cut some of these out in advance so you don't have to watch me cutting them out. But it doesn't actually take too long because I'm not too worried about making sure that I'm going, exact. If I leave a little bit around the edge, I'm actually okay with that. If you don't like fussy cutting, well, paper piecing probably isn't for you. All right, so there's the skirt. Need that, I don't need that. Now, let's see. I'm going to cut the arms out of this piece. Yeah. Sometimes having the stamp set in front of you so that when you're cutting, you've got some pieces, or you've got the image so you actually can see it. Sometimes when you're cutting it out, it's hard to figure out exactly what your pieces are. All right. So this one, I'm just really wanting the arms. And I probably should have cut or stamped. So I've got the arms. And where's the blue? I'm going to stamp this again because I've got a little piece of ribbon, or not ribbon, a scarf that I want to cut to get. Uh-oh, something just went down the back. That wasn't supposed to. And Nancy, I love paper piecing too. Okay, so I'm going to cut the scarf out. So it's just this little piece here. So you don't actually have to cut everything out of designer series paper. I think what I'm going to do is actually color in part of it. So I've got some blends here. Let's see. I will cut this scarf out. All right, so don't lose your little pieces. And then the last thing I want to try and cut out is the wrap that looks like newsprint. And I'm just gonna, that will be for the flowers. And I'm just gonna kind of go up and around the flowers. I'm gonna cut that out in a sec. All right, now I'm gonna try and cut some of these out, but there we go. I cut around those flowers, or the stems that are in there. She still really has a really tiny little waist. I'm not sure what's going on. All right. So just kind of put your pieces in place. Okay, I have to redo this because I'm really not happy with the tiny little waist that it appears that this lady has. It's just not looking right. So I'm going to grab another piece of this piece of basic white. All right, let's try this again. Not sure how quite to do this. Let's try. Okay, so stamp that. And maybe this needs to be cut out and put up. Let's try that. I'm going to change this up because it just is not feeling right to me. So I'm going to cut this piece out. And we'll piece this over top just because it's feeling like she isn't the right proportion, or maybe she's a 1950s person because they seem to have tiny little waists back then. We're gonna do some double piecing here. The other image that I've used that is part of this stamp set seems to go together with no issue, at least without this issue that I seem to be having tonight. Okay, there we go. So now we've got that cut, that cut. Now I'm going to use the, yeah, I think you're right, Nancy. I think you're saying you did it the same way I'm doing it. So, all right. So I'm going to use the multi-purpose liquid glue. And it just seems to, it's a little more forgiving. You don't need a ton, but it lets you have a little bit of wiggle room when you're adhering it on and kind of shifting it into place. Like that. All right, and then I'm going to, oops, not that side. I'm going to adhere this piece. This is the, what looks like newsprint, which goes around the flowers like that, or the stems. And then I'm going to cut a piece off, so we'll do a little bit more. Big piecing with a tiny little piece. All right, and then like that. Remember I said don't throw your, don't lose your little pieces. Well, I've lost a little piece, but okay. All right, and I just need a piece off of this because I think that is supposed to be a piece of the wrap. Sometimes when you decide you're gonna get a little fancy and do really tiny pieces, it makes it a little harder. All right. Now, so instead of trying to find that little tiny piece of blue, I'm actually going to color the ribbon in the dark Misty Moonlight. Like that. And I'm going to color over the mitts in Daffodil Delight just to make them a little bit darker. I said you don't have to color, or don't have to use designer series paper on everything. You can actually do some coloring. So I'm actually coloring over top of the designer series paper just to give it a little bit of depth. And then I've got Soft Succulent that I'm going to do some of the stems. So this is the light one. So I'm just going to give it some color, and then I'm going to go back in and put some dark in. Like that. Let's go back in and put some dark in spots. Not on all of them, but and just blend over that a little bit. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to take and just trim this a little bit, so I don't have quite as much white showing. But I'm really just being fussy now. I'm trying to see if there are comments. There we go. All right, so yeah, I think that doing it like this works much better because you can push it, you can move it down, and so you don't get this tiny little waste. So we'll just use some. It's the first time I've used this particular stamp. I've used the one with the presents and did some paper piecing using that one. Okay, so now I'm going to take and use, I think this is it's the second largest. I will color her feet and shoes when I get this cut. So I'm just going to use, this is the second largest of the scallop contour dies. So I'm just going to take this and use my Stampin' Up emboss machine. And run this through. That. These have become my go-to dies, it seems. All right, so I'm just going to take and color a little bit around here so I don't have so much obvious white showing. And now this is going to go on here like this. All right, I need something else here. I'm going to get some steel light. Cardstock. Steel light. There we go. And I'm going to trim this so it's just a bit bigger. I just want a little bit of color behind this. So this is about, let's see, this is, so I'm going to make it 3 1/4 by, let's see, it's 3 1/4 by 4 3/4. Just feel like it needs some other color behind it. So 3 1/4. That's what I said, yeah. By 4 3/4. No, not quite right, but I need to trim this to be a little shorter. Just a little bit. Like that. There we go. Quite an exact science. All right, so now let's use some dimensionals. Pop this up. Finishing up. There's something very satisfying about finishing a package of dimensionals. So, in the middle so the middle doesn't sag. Put on my piece of misty moon white. And then I will put some dimensionals on this. Oh, it's all done. Actually, I'm one in the middle. Okay, go. Here we go. Now, last thing, I need a sentiment. So I'm going to stamp the sending. This one says sending love and Christmas cheer, but because this isn't a Christmas card, I'm going to stamp it. And then I'm just going to take and cut around and just use the sending cheer. So you could actually do so you only ink up the sending love, but I'm just going to use it and cut around it. So it's a way of kind of making the sentiments in a stamp set do double duty, and finding ways to use them for what they weren't intended to be used for. Right. So I will use this. Just going to trim it. Lots of trimming tonight. Just to be, I think this will fit it. Just wanted some background on it. Hey, Janet. All right, this needs to be trimmed a little bit, but okay, I'm going to use some mini dimensionals on this. Where's my take your pick tool? You need to use the minis because this isn't very wide. pop that up on that little piece, and I'm just gonna, oopsie, get it straight would be good. Shift it, all right, and then I'm just gonna trim this just a little bit. We can trim it straight, there we go. Oh, and I forgot to color her feet and legs, and I forgot to grab, oh, forgetting everything. All right, for the skin, I always use kind of a combination of colors. There is an ivory, which is what I often start with. But sometimes they just look like she hasn't been out in the sun in years. So I add a little bit of light crumb cake over top, just to darken it a bit. Give her a bit of a tan. It's still kind of light, but just feels better to me. So it's a bit of a combination of the color. All right, and then I'm going to give her Misty Moonlight shoes. There we go. And then the last thing is to put the sentiment on the floor. There we go. All right. Now. All right. Cover part of her skirt up, I guess. And there's another package of the end of a piece there, package of dimensionals. All right, so we'll just put it kind of down here. All right, there we go. Yeah, I'm kind of pleased. I'm glad I put the blue behind it, because you can just kind of see it. So lots of ways, kind of fun ways to use up. One, use up some designer series paper, but also to use stamps that you know, that are fairly easy to do paper piecing. So you can pretty much pick. Oh yeah, I know. I love this stamp set. Actually, this is one of the stamp sets that will be part of our retreat on October 22nd and 23rd. So if you, I'm going to actually flip that. If you sign up for the retreat, this is one of the stamp sets, as well as the tidings and trimmings from the annual catalog that you will get as part of the retreat. And if you have those stamp sets already, you can substitute other stamp sets. So that's an option for you. And we'll be advertising, actually starting registration for the retreat opens up on Monday. So we'll be giving more information out, but it is October 22nd and 23rd from about 6:30 to 9 on the 22nd, and then from 8 to 8 on the 23rd. So we'll have lots of challenges for you, but also time for you to just be working on your own projects. Okay, so hope you enjoyed that. I hope you'll take the time to do some paper piecing. It's actually quite fun to do. Not so much when you're actually on camera and it's not working out the way you expected it to go. But anyway, I like the way the card turned out. But have a look at the stamp sets in the catalogs with a different eye to how you could use them for paper piecing, because there are all sorts of stamp sets that you can use. I did a card using the hand-penned petals, and it looks really nice when it's paper pieced. So check it out, and don't forget to share your projects on the Facebook group using hashtag September, if you can believe it. We're in September. September Share 2021, and I do always a couple of prize draws at the end of the month for those that share. I'll be back on Saturday at 2 o'clock with the mystery challenge, and the first clue goes live at about 9 in the morning, so you can watch out for that and join me. And then if you're interested, you can join me for Stampin' Chat on Zoom on Saturday night at 6:30. Just come and bring your projects and stamp along with us. And then I'll be back at 12 noon on Sunday with another project. Not sure what it'll be yet. It'll be a surprise. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Happy stamping.